Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying this again. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm going to just power through it. If it continues to happen, then obviously I'm going to have to do this again another day, but I'm going to just try and power through this, ladies and gentlemen. Please bear with me. Thank you so much. Again, please hit the like button. Convenience. Um, Mr. Epstein and Ms. Well, a lot of famous people. One of them, of course, is the so-called president of the United States, Mr. Well, I like to call him Orange Face. In fact, here is a picture of these two together at the Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach. That is where, I don't know if you can really see that. In fact, you probably can't. But that is Epstein with a very young, as I mentioned earlier, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested on sex trafficking and perjury charges on Thursday. Likes of Bill Gates, you see what he's trying to do right now to the people in the continent of Africa with his deadly vaccine. President Bill Clinton, we already know how he gets down. And Prince Andrew, the third child of Queen Elizabeth. Okay. Also, former L Brand CEO Lex Wexner, who may have been Jeffrey Epstein's only confirmed client, but Epstein also ran a years-long trafficking pyramid scheme from the U.S. Virgin Islands, prosecutors allege in a lawsuit against the former wealth manager's estate in January. Meanwhile, the conviction included the wife of the former brag of his elite social circle that included presidents and Hollywood stars. I invest in people, be it politics or science, Epstein was known to say, according to New York Magazine. It's what I do. Epstein pleaded guilty to charges of solicitation of prostitution and just a moment. Now, Trump claimed in 2002 that he had a long friendship with Epstein. I've known Jeff for 15 years. He's a terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women. This was Donald Trump, according to New York Magazine. According to the counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, Trump now believes the crimes Epstein was charged with are completely unconscionable and obviously criminal. She also labeled them disgusting, according to an early July report from the Associated Press. The president told me this morning he hasn't talked to Epstein. He doesn't think he's talked to Donald Trump. He knows how to distance himself from his so-called former colleagues, no question about it. Former President Bill Clinton traveled with Epstein in 2002 and 2003. And the statement released in July by Clinton spokesman Angel Urena said the former president traveled to Europe, Asia, twice to Africa on Epstein's private jet. Clinton staff and Secret Service agents also went on these trips, which were to further the work of the Clinton Foundation, according to the statement. At the time, Clinton told New York Magazine through a spokesman that Epstein was both a highly successful financier and a committed philanthropist with a keen sense of global markets and an in-depth knowledge of 21st century science. Urena also said that Clinton and Epstein haven't spoken in well over a decade and that Clinton knows famous people that have dealt with Jeffrey Epstein are actor Kevin Spacey and comedian, and this shocked me a little bit, comedian Chris age project sites in South America South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Rwanda, and Mozambique for the Clinton Foundation, according to a New York Magazine report. State, the plaintiff, a 62-year-old Masan Epstein, were close friends, The Guardian reported in 2015. Maxwell, friends. The Duke is the son of the UK's Queen Elizabeth. He has also been criticized for frequently taking flights on the taxpayer's dime while serving as the country's special representative for international trade. This earned him the nicknames Air Miles Andy, according to the Washington Post. Court documents reviewed by The Guardian allege that Epstein instructed Virginia Roberts Gurfey, a 15-year-old employee at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, to have sex with Prince Andrew on 3 separate occasions. Buckingham Palace said that the allegation, a July 22nd article from New York Magazine's Intelligencer, and this obviously was last year, July 22nd, a number of royals and royal connections were among Epstein's contacts. That includes Prince Andrew's then-wife, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, and Charles Althorp, Princess Diana's brother. According to the Intelligencer, all 3 were named in Epstein's Black Book. Ferguson and Prince Andrew were also named in his private jet log. In an interview with the BBC in November, Prince Andrew said his relationship with Epstein brought him opportunities, and that his slowness in ditching Epstein as a friend was because of his tendency to be, quote unquote, too honorable. The interview was widely criticized over Prince Andrew's lack of sympathy with Epstein's victims, and Prince Andrew resigned from public royal duties in November, the Business Insider also reported. Now, outgoing L Brand CEO Lex Wessner is Epstein's only confirmed client. Now, he became a trusted confidant of Wexner while Epstein managed to seize the CEO's fortune, according to Vanity Fair. It also reported that Wexner allowed Epstein to take an active role in L Brands, that Jeffrey Epstein buying from that prestigious lingerie company. Way back in 1989, Wexner used the trust for a cool $13.2 million, reported by Vanity Fair. Epps moved in after Wexner and his wife, Abigail Koppel, moved to Ohio in 1996. Wexner's trust transferred ownership of the house to Epstein in 2011. Wexner later fired Epstein, spokesman told Forbes in July. In February, L Brands announced that Wexner would step down after nearly 6 decades as the company's CEO. L Brands also announced that it would sell the majority stake in Victoria's Secret to private equity firms' treatment of models and plummeting sales. Former Secretary of Labor Alexandra Acosta worked with Epstein's legal team to arrange a plea deal after Epstein was charged with solicitation and prostitution and procurement of minors for prostitution in Florida, evidence against Epstein to request a life sentence. Instead, he reportedly met with one of Epstein's lawyers, who happened to be a former colleague of Acosta's. In the resulting plea deal, Epstein served only 13 months in a private wing in a county prison, which he was allowed to leave 6 days a week to work in his office. Boys, if that isn't Club Fed, if that he was pleased that New York prosecutors are moving. Peggy Siegel planned a star-studded dinner party for Epstein and Prince Andrew at Epstein's New York mansion in 2010. Siegel, known for hosting events to promote films such as Big Short, Argo, and The Revenant to Oscar voters, invited Epstein to screenings after he was released from prison in 2010, a New York Times. I was a kind of plugged in girl around town who knew a lot of people, Siegel told the New York Times. Siegel also planned a dinner party for Epstein and Prince Andrew at his Upper East Side home. The event was handled by Katie Couric, George Stephanopoulos, and Chelsea Handler. Or about his criminal history, the Times also reported. A spokesman for Siegel told Business Insider that Siegel's relationship with Epstein was social, not professional. Siegel told the New York Times that she ended her relationship with Epstein at the height of the Me Too era in 2017. Netflix, FX, and Annapurna Pictures severed their ties with Siegel in July 2019 after her connection with Epstein became public, according to Variety magazine. Epstein also told the Times that he spoke often with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Epstein said that MBS had visited Epstein's Manhattan mansion many times and had a framed photo of the Crown Prince hanging on the wall, according to New York Times reporter James P. Stewart. Hey, Brother Dale, how you doing this evening? Powering on here. Insider's request for comment. According to the New York Times, Epstein claimed to have advised Tesla CEO Elon Musk. In an interview published in the New York Times on August 12th of last year, earlier in August of 2018, Epstein told reporter James P. Stewart that he had promised to keep his work for Tesla private because of his prior conviction. Epstein also warned that both Musk and Tesla would deny their connection to Epstein if it ever became public, the Times reported. In a statement to Business Insider, a spokesperson for Musk denied Epstein's claims of having served as an advisor to the CEO. Musk and Maxwell were photographed at an op 2014 in West Hollywood. The same Musk spokesperson told Business Insider that knowledge. Oh boy. Boy, these guys know how to just deny. Musk has confirmed crossing paths with Epstein at least once, Business Insider reported. Musk, Epstein, and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg were all guests at a dinner hosted by LinkedIn CEO Reid Hoffman sometime after he was from jail, is in the frame here. MIT Media Lab director Joy Ito quietly worked with Epstein to secure anonymous donations, Vanity Fair also reported. Ito worked with other directors and staff at the MIT Media Lab to quietly receive large anonymous donations from Epstein after he was convicted of soliciting underage girls for prostitution, a New Yorker expose published on September 6 reports. The article contains emails sent between owners, including Bill Gates and Leon Black, and that Epstein had a role in determining what his donations would be used for at MIT, contradicting previous statements from Ito and the university. Ito resigned from his post at MIT, the New York Times Company, and the MacArthur Foundation on September the 7th, the Business Insider reported. Now, Epstein worked as a go-between for the MIT Media Lab and Bill Gates to arrange donations, according to Vanity Fair. Emails obtained and published by the New Yorker show former lab director Mr. Ito research lab in October of 2014. Bill Gates also met with Epstein at least once. Bill attended a meeting in New York with others focused on philanthropy. While Epstein was present, he never provided services of any type to Bill, according to a Gates spokesperson, and that is what they passed on to Business Insider. A spokesperson for Gates told Business Insider that Epstein was introduced to Bill Gates as someone who was interested in helping grow philanthropy. Although between the two is simply not true. And any claim that Epstein directed any programmatic or personal grant making for Bill Gates is completely, please hit the like button. I really appreciate it. I mean, I know a lot of people have spoken about Ms. Maxwell and Mr. Epstein and the arrest on Thursday, but they have not gone in depth like I have so far. Just one moment. A New York Times investigation published in October found that Gates met with Epstein multiple times, that he regretted the association, but Gates himself hadn't publicly addressed it until November, according to Business Insider's Aaron Holmes. Gates said at the New York Times Dealbook Conference in November that he believed billions of dollars would come from his meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. I made a mistake in judgment in thinking those discussions would go to global health. That money never appeared. I gave him the benefit of my connections to the MIT Media Lab broke. A few years ago, Epstein attended a dinner Hoffman hosted to honor an MIT neuroscientist, Vanity Fair reported in July. Now, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk also were in attendance. Both denied having ongoing relationships with Epstein to Vanity Fair. Hoffman also implicated himself in the cover-up of Epstein's donations to the MIT Media Lab. As pressure mounted on Media Lab director Joy Ito to resign, Hoffman defended Ito to author and fellow MIT Media Lab Disobedience Award jury member. Hoffman basically hid behind bureaucracy and the old ongoing investigation excuse, Ghislaine said in the now unavailable tweets. He said it would be complicated to release the correspondence publicly because some other names might get dragged in. Someone should tell him about redaction. According to Ghislaine, Hoffman wrote in a second email that Ghislaine was making the situation, quote, all about you, unquote, by threatening to resign. In the end, Ghislaine resigned from funds it personally, according to Media Lab's website. In 2017, MIT awarded Epstein and other donors orbs to thank them for their support, according to the Boston Globe. The orb looks similar to the trophy given to winners of the Disobedience Award. Now, a lawsuit also has shined light on Epstein's connection to former U.S. Virgin Islands Governor John P. DeJong while he was in office. Governor John P. DeJong's wife, Cecile DeJong, served on the board of Epstein's financial trust company for most of her husband's time in office, according to Business Insider's Becky Peterson and John Cook. Cecile DeJong held the titles of secretary and vice president in her decade-long tenure with the company, even staying on board after Epstein was first charged with sexual assault in 2007. Prosecutors in the U.S. Virgin Islands alleged that Epstein was trafficking women and children through a victim who was forced into sexual acts with Epstein and others, and then attempted to escape by swimming off the Little St. James Island. In a statement, a lawyer representing Epstein's estate told Business Insider that some of the allegations in the lawsuit were inaccurate, particularly allegations that the estate to this day engages in a quote-unquote a course of conduct aimed at concealing the criminal activities of the Epstein enterprise. The estate is being administered in accordance with the laws of the U.S. Virgin Islands and under the supervision of the Superior Court of the U.S. Virgin Islands, the statement says. I mean, those are several people who have had their hands dirty with Mr. Jeffrey Epstein and with Ghislaine Maxwell. Yep, Bill Gates. And now you see what's going on in Africa. And yes, a lot of that has to do with Mr. Epstein. And as I mentioned before, she was arrested this past Thursday. And I'm pretty sure that now they're going to have her they're going to do their best to flip this woman, and she's going to start singing like Luther Vandross. And I would not be shocked if something befalls Ms. Maxwell in 4 to 6 months before the trial starts. Now, they won't be able to use suicide this time. They might have some special seasoning for it, a meal, things of that nature. But it will be very interesting to see what happens regarding Ms. Maxwell during these upcoming times. Now, the other topic for this evening is, and I'm not going to dwell too much time on it, but it will be Mr. Kanye West, who claims that he is running for president in 2020. Now, a lot of people are going to look at it side-eyed, including myself. I mean, he had several opportunities to run for president earlier than this. I mean, here it is away from the actual November elections. And now Kanye decides. I know my speech is a little messed up. It is Ghislaine Maxwell. You're absolutely right. And thank you for that correction. Kanye West my English is pathetic this evening. Please bear with me. Kanye West paved a long road before reaching his 2020 presidential run, which he announced, ironically, on the 4th of They Lied. From criticizing former President George W. Bush on national television to supporting President Donald Trump on social media, Billboard compiled a time. Yeah. Hey, listen, I mean, he is who he is. Now, I do believe a lot of it is that, but I also think that he's not as far out there as people think. 5, Kanye declares George Bush does not care about black people, and that during the concert for hurricane relief, we remember that. That's when Kanye West was still considered a quote-unquote conscious rapper. In fact, at that time, he stood side by side with Michael Myers, the comedian and actor, when he veered off script and spoke from the heart about the disproportionate tragedies facing the black community in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. In 2010, former President Bush describes West's outburst. Well, listen, he was 100% right when it came, because let's face it, W's response to Hurricane Katrina's victims was beyond deplorable. I mean, let's face it, if you remember, they were referred to as quote-unquote refugees. First of all, they were not refugees. These were citizens of the United States of America who had an unimaginable tragedy happen to them. And for the federal government to be as lax as they were in coming to the aid of these people was downright pathetic. The West take a selfie with Senator Hillary Rodham. Now, at that time, Kim Kardashian, his wife, utilized her social media influence to endorse Senator Clinton as the Democratic presidential candidate by snapping a picture with Clinton and West at one of her fundraisers. Now, way back in 2020, when Taylor Swift presented the coveted Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award to Kanye, who had famously interrupted her acceptance speech 6 years prior to that, he again took the stage for a moment. And yes, as you probably could have guessed by this moment, I have decided in 2020 to run for president, West declared at the end of his speech. Yeah, I remember the slavery is a choice thing. That will be a separate upload for another time, because obviously slavery was not a choice for us when we was trying to say, and let's face it, it's hard because it's coming from Kanye, because he's so all over the place. But what he was trying to say was, with all the slaves on the plantation, there should have been many more revolts against George than there actually was. And in fact, Harriet Tubman, if you remember, she had said that she had freed thousands of slaves on this, had the proper mindset, but they were so comfortable in master's quarters that they did not want to be freed. I get what you're saying about him, because let's face it, his words unfortunately hold very little merit, especially when you are a Trump supporter. Let's face it, when you claim to support a man who has done some of the most vile things in the history of the presidency, you lose all credibility with our people. When you side with a person who said, I'm going to grab women by the vagina, and I'm just was so vile toward the innocent five, you lose all credibility. And that's all there is to it. So, you know what? This Kanye is totally different from the Kanye West that started out as a producer. I mean, this Kanye now has delusions of grandeur, and it leads me up to where I am going to get Donald Trump, and he's trying to split up the vote. Because let's face it, if you believe the polls, and to be honest, I don't, and anything can happen. Even if you do believe the polls, anything can happen between now and election day. So, in my estimation, this is Kanye West doing two things. He's, number one, trying to keep himself relevant in the media and in the public eye in general. And he's also paved the way for another 4 years of orange face. Now, you have to ask yourself, and I'm one of those guys who believe that the left wing and the right trust the Republican Party. But you have to ask yourself, can we afford another 4 years of the orange face one? I what? Over 150,000 people have died at the hand of this epidemic of COVID-19. And you have to ask yourself, do you want this man there another 4 years? How many more people are than vax? He does, well, they have about, I have to disagree with you with that one, Dale. They have the exact same ego. In fact, I believe Trump's ego is much higher than Kanye's, and it's not even close. And Kanye has a huge ego. I'm not questioning that, but I will tell you that Trump's ego is significantly higher to basically send the death sentence to the Central Park Five. He didn't do that. And to be honest, I don't think he would do that. If anything, he'll try and make himself look good. And Trump does the same thing to a point. But see, Trump, I tell you what, if Trump, and I say this a lot, but I'm going to have to say it again. But he is, their egos, I can't even say they're neck and neck, because Trump they're both narcissists. As of right now, this country has over 2.9 million total cases of COVID-19, and 122,000 them as dollar signs. His push to get people to, they need to go back to work, they need to do this. Listen, we all know that economics is important, but it's not more important than human life. And that's all there is to it. If you're going to put a dollar sign above human life, the result is what you have right now that's going on. Look at all these cases that have just risen exponentially because of the rush to open up. And these are Trump supporters, 99.9% of them, that were rushing to open these things up. Look at what's happening in Texas. Look what's happening in California. Look at what is happening in Florida. This is a direct correlation to this man. And look at that sorry rally he had in Tulsa. And he is supposed to have another rally in New Hampshire this upcoming weekend. And it will be interesting to see what happens there. He absolutely does. He has as much right as the clown that's in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now. Would I vote for him? Absolutely not. Now, I'm not one of those guys who believe in the less of two evils. I believe that evil is evil. But the scary part is you can't. Trump is literally hazardous to your health. I mean, he's more dangerous than Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan brought crack and AIDS to our communities. I mean, let's face it, before Trump, Ronald Reagan was far and above the worst president over the last half century of these United States. And anybody that wants to disagree with me, all you have to do is look at Reagan's that Reaganomic track record. That, oh God, remember he thought that AIDS didn't exist. Yeah, Herman Cain has a crisis when you look at the way that this guy has done it. So, listen, if you're going to vote for Trump, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. That's all I'm going to have to say on that. Ditto for Mr. Kanye. But if ever the less of two evils applies, it certainly applies here. And that is how I'm going to. This is Uncle Claude's late night rendezvous, of course. Please like, share, and subscribe. Take care, everybody, and God bless.